Now, Donald Trump hardened his position on Moscow at the UN General Assembly last night, saying that NATO countries should shoot down Russian jets that enter their airspace, and claiming that Ukraine could win back all its territory. That was the good news for Europe. But the US president also berated his NATO allies over free speech, green energy, the prison population, and in particular, immigration.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
Well, I'm joined now from New York by Leslie Vinjamuri, the former US Director of Chatham House and CEO of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. Hello, Leslie.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thanks for being with us. Good morning, Leslie. Look, the Kremlin has responded to Trump's claims, saying he's deeply mistaken that Ukraine could retake occupied territory. The spokesperson also said that this is not an aimless war. Is he mistaken, or could Ukraine actually do that?
It seems like a very tall mountain to climb, but, in many ways, what's much more significant is just simply that the United States President Donald Trump has moved so dramatically from being what felt for a very long time like he was in Vladimir Putin's corner to being very much in Ukraine's corner, with, of course, one great exception, which is that he isn't saying that the United States is going to come in and deliver this goal. He's really still pointing to Europe, also to NATO, but no promise or offer of increased U.S. support. But that is a dramatic change from what we'd been hearing from President Trump. And it was only weeks ago that he was in Alaska, right, meeting with Putin. But clearly his goals have been frustrated. And we saw in that speech yesterday, he's trying to make the case that he's delivered peace in 7 instances, that he's worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize. But he knows, the president understands, I'm sure, that the record on the 2 big wars of our time, Gaza and Ukraine, are really those with which people will be judging him.
Why do you think he has changed? Is this just the kind of sort of erratic shopping trolley that is Donald Trump just veering in the other direction? Or do you think does he feel slighted about what's happened since Alaska? Does he feel humiliated by Putin's failure to move?
I mean, one hates to be Pollyannish, but I think it's both. He had met with Zelensky, who was clearly feeling some empathy. And he's clearly frustrated that he has failed to alter the course of Putin's action. If anything, the Russian leader has been emboldened since that meeting in Alaska, the meetings in Beijing, and the incursions on airspace in a number of NATO countries. I think that those series of actions have just created immense frustration. And you add that to his the person he had last or most recently spoken to, Zelensky, all comes together in this heated moment. But again, if you go back to that speech yesterday, it does anything but ensure confidence in those who would aim to support Ukraine, that the U.S. will actively be on their side.
I mean, that thing he said about how NATO should shoot down jets that stray into its airspace, how seriously should we take that, and how significant is that if we do take it seriously?
I think that one should not take it seriously. It's a little bit alarming to say that one should be dismissive or not serious about the words of the United States president speaking at the United Nations General Assembly. And it really flies in the face of everything that the United States has been seeking to do throughout this war, which is to manage the risks of escalation. It wasn't delivered as a clear statement of policy. That's not the sense that anyone will have, but simply Donald Trump speaking off the cuff, which is how most of his entire speech read, in part because he was speaking off the cuff. As we know, he didn't have that teleprompter. And so, any number of series of ramblings, I think it's a better read on the president's emotions, feelings, and instincts rather than any real reflection of a policy that the United States would back. But, what Trump is very good at doing is creating uncertainty and disruption. And, that might be his way of trying to send a signal to Russia that the U.S. is willing to play and take a harder line than it has so far.
The rest of his remarks about Europe, I mean, he's been critical of European countries in the past, plenty over issues that affect the whole of NATO, specifically defence spending. But he's now, very much wading into issues that are purely domestic, to do with immigration and everything else. Why do you think he's doing that? Can he just not quite help himself?
I think Donald Trump is always playing to multiple audiences. So he's back in New York. He's had his trip to the United Kingdom. It was a very successful trip on the surface, but he's gotten what he wanted out of the British government. And now he's back home. He's got an audience that he's talking to. There is a big push in the aftermath of the murder of Charlie Kirk, a big push against the left. Immigration has been a core issue of Donald Trump's platform, and it plays well to his base. It frankly plays well to many people across Europe, and so he was just doubling down. It's not likely that those exact words were in the text of the speech that was originally written. But again, it's a very strong sign of where the president's emotions and instincts really rest.
Leslie Vinjamuri, CEO of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, thank you very much indeed.
Of the 7 wars that I stopped, I thought that would be the easiest because of my relationship with President Putin, which had always been a good one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But in war, you never know what's going to happen. There are always lots of surprises, both good and bad. Thank you. As we have got to come together, it's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. No matter what happens from here on out, this was something that should have taken a matter of days, certainly less than a week. And they've been fighting for 3.5 years and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides, every single week, from 5,000 to 7,000 dead young people. China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil, but inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? There, we must reject the failed approaches of the past and work together to confront some of the greatest threats. In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures. I mean, you're much closer to the city. We have an ocean in between. You're right there. And Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that. They have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time. So I'm ready to discuss this. We're going to discuss it today with the European nations, all gathered here. I'm sure they're thrilled to hear me speak about it, but that's the way it is. I like to speak my mind and speak the truth.